Good morning, everybody, and welcome not only to a new day, not only to a new book and reading vlog, but also to a new year. Even though, like, when you watch this video, the year isn't going to be that new anymore, because this video approximately is going up somewhere in March, because you guessed correctly from the title, it is my Don Quixote reading vlog. I'm super excited. This book has 944 pages. I will be reading approximately 20 pages a day. I will probably skip some days, and so somewhere in February I plan to finish this book. I'm so incredibly excited. I hope I'm going to love it. I feel like it was such a perfect choice for the first book of the BBB. It was such a good choice, everybody, so good job, good job. So yeah, I'm very excited to dive into all the adventures of Don Quixote. I hope you are starting to read this book together with me. I hope it will be a pleasant, nice, super enjoyable, but also super satisfying experience. Because can you imagine, in 2 months, we will put these books on our shelves and they will be considered read. So if somebody comes to you and asks, have you read this book? You will be, I did. But welcome to the new year. Welcome to the new book. Big book at that. So yeah, Don Quixote by Miguel de Cervantes. Super excited. Let's begin. To be honest, this book feels very satisfying. Like, it's such a pleasure to like do like this. Oh, it's very floppy. Like, this edition is super floppy and I'm just it's very enjoyable. I really like this edition. So yeah, I'm super excited to start with Don Quixote, and now let's start reading.
Somewhere in La Mancha, in a place whose name I do not care to remember, a gentleman lived not long ago, one of those who has a lance and ancient shield on a shelf, and keeps a skinny nag and a greyhound for racing. He had a housekeeper past 40, a niece not yet 20, and a man of all work, who did everything from saddling the horse to pruning the trees. Our gentleman was approximately 50 years old. His complexion was withered, his flesh scrawny, his face gaunt, and he was a very early riser and a great lover of the hunt. Let it be said that this aforementioned gentleman spent his time of leisure, which meant most of the year, reading books of chivalry, with so much devotion and enthusiasm that he forgot almost completely about the hunt and even about the administration of his estate. And he thought none was as fine as those composed by worthy Feliciano de Silva, because the clarity of his prose and complexity of his language seemed to him more valuable than pearls, in particular when he read the declarations and missives of love, where he would often find written, "Reason, for the unreason to which my reason turns, so weakens my reason that with reason I complain of thy beauty." And also when he read, "The heavens on height divinely heighten thy divinity with the stars, and make thee deserving of the deserts thy greatness deserves." With these words and phrases, the poor gentleman lost his mind, and he spent sleepless nights trying to understand them and extract their meaning, which Aristotle himself, if he came back to life for only that purpose, would not have been able to decipher or understand. The truth is that when his mind was completely gone, he had the strangest thought any lunatic in the world ever had, which was that it seemed reasonable and necessary to him, for both the sake of his honor and as a service to the nation, to become a knight-errant and travel the world with his armor and his horse to seek adventures and engage in everything he had read that knights-errant engaged in. righting all manners of wrong and seizing the opportunity and placing himself in danger and ending those wrongs, winning eternal renown and everlasting fame.
Hi everybody. So I am reading chapter 6. I will not tell you what happens, so I wouldn't spoil it to you, but I will just tell you like what the chapter means, because it's just like, it's so mind-blowing, because I'm reading, but also I'm following this coursehero.com, because on Discord one of the people shared the link to, it's like a course on Don Quixote, so you kind of read Don Quixote along with the course, and then the course gives you explanations for certain parts. Like for example chapter 6, I will read you, it's like analysis of the chapter, and it's just so but it totally like makes sense. So the chapter mirrors the Spanish Inquisition, a state-sanctioned effort to remove or convert Jews and Muslims living in Spain between 1478 and 1834. The early years of Spanish Inquisition were particularly brutal, and many people were tortured or burned at the stake. The pivotal scene also reflects the divide between gender, class, and position in the 17th century Spanish society. Literacy was rare, generally reserved for men with money who lived in cities and towns. Don Quixote, a man with expendable income, and the barber surgeon and the priest, both learned men, know how to read, but Don Quixote sneeze and housekeeper do not. It's really interesting. Like this chapter, it like this explanation totally makes sense. I don't want to go at length because I don't want to spoil the chapter to you, but I thought it was just so interesting. So it mirrors the Spanish Inquisition, which just totally makes sense, and also the literacy comment also was really interesting. It's so cool. And also in the end of the chapter we finally met Sanchoponzo. I was so happy to finally meet Sanchoponzo, because I, like, before I started the book, for some reason I was convinced that Sanchoponzo would be with Don Quixote from the very beginning, and like it is very beginning of the book, like it's just chapter 6 but I just can imagine that he would be with Don Quixote from like the very, very, very beginning. Turns out he's not, but yeah, it was so interesting. I think like if you decide to read Don Quixote for yourself, I would highly suggest following like Course Hero just analysis and their chapters breakdowns, because it really opens your eyes at some elements. Like for example with me, this chapter 6, very interesting, very interesting. And also yes, I'm glad to finally meet Sanchoponzo. I'm so looking forward to read on. I'm reading Don Quixote, and I just wanted to mention something about the narrator's voice. I feel like narrator's voice is really like also adds some spice to the book. It adds some really good spice, because he's very sarcastic, and maybe not sarcastic, but he's kind of mean. He's a mean narrator to Don Quixote and to Sanchoponzo, but his remarks are also kind of, you know, true. He has a point. But yeah, just he's kind of, some of his wordings and some of his phrases are really funny. Like for example, let me read you something. So in this episode, Don Quixote, he realizes that he hasn't been dubbed a knight, and so technically he cannot call himself a knight, and he cannot go to all of these explorers, and so that's what the narrator says. These thoughts made him waver in his purpose. but his madness being stronger than any other faculty, he resolved to have himself dubbed a knight by the first person he met, in imitation of many others who had done the same, as he had read in the books that had brought him to this state. I like this kind of very kind of high tone of the narration when he deals with these funny situations. Or for example, he says, again, when Don Quixote was, it's in the same chapter, it's in the same place, so he's just traveling and he's kind of composing kind of a letter or like a poetry for Dulcinea, and so that's what the narrator writes. He strung this together with other foolish remarks, all in the manner his books had taught him, and imitating their language as much as he could. As a result, his pace was so slow, and the sun rose so quickly and ardently, that it would have melted his brains if he had had any. Like, this is very mean. This is very mean. So yeah, if he had had any. And then later on in chapter 8, we meet, he's already with Sancho Panza, and he has this adventure which I will not spoil you, but basically Don Quixote fails and he falls from his horse, and then Sancho Panza rushes to his help, to help his master, and that's how the narrator describes Sancho Panza. So he says that Sancho Panza hurried to help him as fast as his donkey could carry him. Can you imagine Sancho Panza at that moment, like on his donkey, just yeah. The narrator is great and really funny.
So I am on page 99, and I came across this episode, which I think can be considered quite progressive in terms of Don Quixote being 17th century novel, like beginning of the 17th century, because a few people on Discord already mentioned it. Like, I am behind. I am behind everybody. It's okay. So yeah, I finally reached this part where we meet this girl, Marcella. I think her name is pronounced Marcella or Marcella. Marcella. This girl. Basically what happens, she is being blamed by all the men in her village for being this like mean and angry and cruel woman, because she is very beautiful and everybody is in love with her and everybody wants to marry her. However, she herself loves nobody and she wants to marry nobody, and that's why everybody calls her mean and cruel. But the woman receives her worth in this novel. She stands up to herself, and she receives like 2 pages of speech which she gives to all of the men, standing up to herself and like explaining that they are unfair. It's their fault, it's not her fault, that they misunderstand her, that like she never gave anybody any hope, it's just them. It's not her duty to marry anybody. She even says these words: I was born free, and in order to live free, I choose the solitude of the countryside. She just lives with her father and she wants to continue living that way. And yeah, I really loved it. Like, she really gives a very good like speech, very intelligent speech, and I just thought it was so great to see an intelligent, strong woman in this novel, because as we know, in classics we don't often meet great female characters, and in this one, well, we have just met one, which was great, and I really enjoyed it. She really gives such a wonderful speech. She's like, this is unfair, I didn't ask for this beauty. If the God who gave me my beauty would give me ugliness, would it be fair for me to be calling you cruel for not loving me? Would you consider that fair? And I'm like, oh yes, tell them, you tell them. It was very wonderful. Yes, I feel like it's a very progressive kind of episode, and it's really nice to see in a classic a character like that, female character like that. I forgot also to mention about Marcella. I really like it that she doesn't see herself as like the purpose of her life to have a family and to have children, which would normally people would expect from a woman at that age, right? She doesn't want to do that. She wants to live her own life. Yeah, basically I'm fangirling over Marcella here. I'm fangirling. So I'm currently on chapter 30 of the first part of the book, and I came across this one paragraph which kind of, I guess it changed my perception of Don Quixote, because to this point I looked at him as this comic character, right? A character you laugh at. You laugh at his madness, you laugh at what he is doing, even though you understand that he is trying to do something good. But I even blamed him at some point, you know, when he tries to help and then it turns wrong and it doesn't work, and he kind of makes actually things worse. I was blaming him and I was angry with him. And then this one paragraph, which I will read to you, made me look at him in a different light, and suddenly I saw him not as much as this funny comic character, more as a tragic one. And also I kind of felt bad for myself. I felt like Cervantes, the author of this book, was I think he was kind of teaching me like a moral lesson, I guess. He was like, because okay, I will just read you the paragraph and then you will see. So the paragraph, he goes: "Imbecile," said Don Quixote, "it's not the responsibility or concern of a knight-errant to determine if the afflicted, the fettered, and the oppressed whom he meets along the road are in that condition and suffering that anguish because of misdeeds or kind acts. His only obligation is to help them because they're in need, turning his eyes to the suffering and not their wickedness. And I encountered a rosary, a string of disheartened, unfortunate people, and I did for them what my religion asks of me. The rest doesn't concern me. And I say that whoever thinks this is wrong knows little of the matter of chivalry and lies like a low-born whoreson, and will be taught this by my sword at greater length." So that's the paragraph that made me think, because like I am the person, right? I am the person who was blaming him for helping certain characters. I was blaming him and and laughing at him for like taking him as a madman. And I feel like a lot of people would do that, right? Because that's Don Quixote, you just make fun at him. And I feel like this paragraph was targeted at the readers to kind of show them that Don Quixote is not that mad actually. He has a point, he follows Christian beliefs and what Christianity teaches you to do, right? So it's a very also religious figure. And like a lot of things that you read in this book, I feel like this book is very heavily based in Christianity and like Christian beliefs. Well, of course it would, right? I think Cervantes, I don't know if he was a religious man, but seems to me that he was, judging from this book. And I guess it's logical, it was like 17th century. I think everybody was religious at that point. Don't quote me on that though. So yeah, suddenly, like after I read this, first of all I felt bad because it was me who thought differently, and I felt like this was targeted at me to not blame me, but like kind of show me that it's me who is thinking wrong. It's the reader, it's me who is wrong, not Don Quixote. So yeah, this paragraph really kind of turned the character of Don Quixote for me and made me see him in a different light. It made me see him as this tragic character who is desperately trying to improve the world and make the world a better place, asking nothing in return. Yet everybody around, myself included, just makes fun at him and doesn't listen to him, even though, like, why he's not improving the world, why things that do not work, even though he's desperately trying to improve them, it's because he cannot do it alone, because other people have to listen to him and they have to follow into his example and into his footsteps. And people just don't. People just take him as this madman and they just laugh at him. Suddenly he wasn't as funny to me anymore, and I felt ashamed of myself. I feel like it was Cervantes's point to me as a reader. So yeah, it's interesting. It's interesting how like just one paragraph can change your whole perception of the character. I think it was really well done. It was really well done. I really liked it. So yeah. Can I please just say something? Like, this in this book, I'm at the point, you know, it's after the second inserted novella, and I'm like, where is that inn exactly? Where is that place? I need to go there. I need to get there, because apparently it's a place where everybody's problems are solved. All the people that you're needed are just there, and all of your problems just go away. And I'm like, where is the location? Give me the location of that magic inn. But it's just so it's very obviously, it's very coincidental. Like, it's just a good, just, you know, very convenient resolution of a plot, but at the same time, like, you know, it's a 17th or 16th century novel. Like, of course some of the plot devices will be maybe a little bit unrealistic for us, and like for us maybe a little bit like kind of you know, like that, so easy. But you know, it doesn't diminish the enjoyment that I receive from the book. Besides, I feel like the tone of the book kind of allows it, because the tone of the book is very humorous, kind of making fun of the characters and of their situations, and because it's so kind of, it doesn't pretend to be anything serious, it doesn't pretend to be anything realistic, and probably that's why such plot devices are possible in this book. So that's what I'm thinking currently. So I'm not really mad with that. Like, obviously it's coincidental, obviously it's easy, but at the same time this book and this story allows it. So like, you wouldn't expect anything actually very much realistic. Like, is Don Quixote a realistic character? A person who is insane in one sphere of his life but totally logical in some other spheres of his life, is that realistic? Probably not. So yeah, I'm enjoying it. I'm enjoying it. And please tell me the location of that inn. Please tell me where that is. I wanna go there. Yes. Hi everybody. To be honest, I don't understand something about this Dulcinea of Tobos, because in the second part of the books, in the second part, Sanchoponzo and Don Quixote, they're talking about her like they have never seen her. Like, it's an, you know, like they don't know who the person is. Like, it's just like Dulcinea that kind of Don Quixote created it to himself, but he has never seen the girl, he doesn't know who she is. When in like the very first chapter, actually, the very first chapter, when we were only introduced to Don Quixote, he actually thought about a very specific girl that he had in his mind to be his Dulcinea. It is believed that in a nearby village there was a very attractive peasant girl with whom he had once been in love, although she apparently never knew or noticed. So if he was in love with her, so then he knew her. Like, he once, so it was in the past, before he decided to be the knight. Is that right? Her name was Aldonza Lorenzo, and he thought it a good idea to call her the lady of his thoughts. Like, I understand from this, like, if he was in love with her and she didn't notice, means she could have noticed, means that, like,
they were somewhere in vicinity. Like, no, am I misunderstanding this? I just don't. I just like from the very first part I had this idea that he understood who the girl was. And then later when they were in the mountains, like I cannot find now, but like when they were in the mountains, he also, like Sancho Panza started asking him who is Dulcinea, and he kind of gave him hints, and then Sancho Panza was like, oh, I know her, and she screams loudly, she has a very loud voice. Like Sancho Panza also knows her. He knows the name of this girl, like her father's name, and so it means he knows who the girl is. And then in this second part they're talking, Don Quixote like, I have never seen her, and Sancho Panza is thinking to himself, I have never seen her either. So like, is it the same story like Sancho Panza and his donkey when Cervantes overlooked something? Or is it me who is overlooking something and misunderstanding something? It's not like something important, but I'm just curious. I'm just very, very curious. How come they don't know who is Dulcinea? Because he clearly thought about a very specific girl. He even knows her name. Questions. Let me know in the comments if you know. Maybe I'm like misunderstanding something. But it's just a very interesting question. It's also an interesting book because apparently Cervantes like I don't know, he overlooked a lot of things. Like there is so many comments here by the translators like, oh, he overlooked this, or Sancho Panza, and we don't know when his donkey was stolen. It could be stolen by those robbers, or it could be stolen sometime else, sometime later. Nobody knows when the donkey was stolen. And actually it's funny because in the second part he actually addresses, like the author addresses the story with the donkey, because there was this like young scholar, this bachelor, who came to Don Quixote to tell him about the book that is being written about him. I really like this, like, you know, kind of interwovenness between the reality and between like the book, because Cervantes also sometimes puts himself into the book, and like there was this soldier Cervantes. I really like it. So what was I saying? Ah yeah, so the scholar comes and he's like, there are a lot of questions sometimes about your story. For example, readers cannot understand what happened to Sancho Panza's donkey. Like he comes back to it and he kind of, you know, he acknowledges it and he makes fun of it. So that's fun. That's fun. This book is fun. This book is very much fun. It's sometimes it feels like long because there are some, you know, sometimes you have this. Don Quixote discusses like this idea of arms and of letters, like people going into the like military profession and people going into the like academic profession, which one is more honorable, and like he discusses these things, and then like, they discuss something else. So they do like it. Sometimes it can be a little bit like, you know, dragging, but it's kind of enjoyable still. You know, I don't mind all of these discussions, to be honest. I kind of like reading them. So yeah, I'm enjoying this at this point. Sometimes I feel like it's dragging, and sometimes I feel like I'm really enjoying it. So you see, I'm like in this, I'm like jumping from one point to another. Sometimes I'm like, Mr. Cervantes, this is a little bit long. And then sometimes I'm like, Mr. Cervantes, this is very well done. I'm really enjoying it at some point. I feel like this book is very good, just like a comfort read. I feel like it's a really good comfort read. Just sit with it, read about this lovely Don Quixote who just wants to make this world a better place. Like he has no like ambitions. He kind of wants, he would not refuse to be the king. But like it's not his purpose, you know. He wants to right the wrong, and he wants to do good things, and he wants to help people, and just so selfless, and it's just so, you know, he's doing all of this to make the world a better place. Like his ideas and his reasons are very honorable and very, they're just good. So this book is very heartwarming, and his Sancho Panza and their friendship is just adorable. So yeah, I'm currently enjoying. I will continue reading. So I'm at the point where Sancho Panza and Don Quixote meet this other knight, and this other knight has also his own squire of the wood. And so Sancho starts talking to the squire of the wood, and so that they start discussing their masters. And so the other squire says that, like, my master is a fool, but he's brave, and more of a scoundrel than foolish or brave. And then Sanchoponzo says, just very heartwarming words about Don Quixote. He says, not mine, meaning the knight, so meaning Don Quixote. Not mine, responded Sancho. I mean, there is nothing of scoundrel in him. Mine is as innocent as a baby. He doesn't know how to harm anybody, he can only do good to everybody, and there is no malice in him. A child could convince him it's night in the middle of the day, and because he is simple, I love him with all my heart, and couldn't leave him no matter how crazy things he does. And I'm just like, oh, Sancho. I love their just love towards each other and respect and friendship. Yes, that's what I like about this book. That's what makes this book for me, is the relationship between Sancho and Don Quixote, because they're just the best. They're just the best part of this novel. Hi everybody, I just wanted to update you a little bit on the Don Quixote. I'm struggling. I am now at the second part, like halfway through the second part, and I'm sorry to say it, but I'm struggling. I don't know, it's just like, it's very similar to the first part. Like, there is this one added element of him trying to save his Dulcinea. Like, he kind of gave Cervantes kind of gave him this end goal of saving this Dulcinea from her enchantment. Yeah, but now it's the same thing as in the first part. He's just kind of wandering around his neighborhood, meeting different people, just like a collection of his adventures. And I feel like I've read already so much of it in the first part that I am just I've read it already. And yes, it's like slightly new, it's new people and like new adventures, but it's kind of the same in a way, and so I find it very difficult to care and to kind of pay attention and to just care. I don't know, I'm really struggling currently at this point. It's not even like in the beginning, I feel like I enjoyed the first part more. Yes, it was repetitive at parts, but then when it becomes like really repetitive, he would insert a short novella about like a new character, and then there would be like some new characters added, and so it kind of saved the read for me. At this part, at this point, like not so much. So I don't know, I'm really struggling currently with the second part. I feel like I enjoyed the first part much more, but then second part, I'm looking forward to finishing it, you know? I'm looking forward to finishing it. Yeah, I will update you how I will feel in the future, but currently, yeah, it's just hard. It's not only Don Quixote and Sanchoponzo who has a wonderful friendship, it's also their animals. And I am living for this. I am living for this. Because look what he writes. So he says, as soon as the two animals were together, they would begin to scratch each other. And then, when they were tired and satisfied, Rocinante would lay his neck across the donkey's. It would extend almost half a meter on the other side, and staring intently at the ground, the two of them could stand this way for 3 days, or at least for as long as they were permitted to do so, or were not compelled by hunger to look for food. Oh, adorable. So you see, it's not only Don Quixote and Sanchoponzo, their animals as well are also very lovely friends. And I like this
I like it so much because I think it adds so much charm to this book. This book is very charming because of this friendship of the master and his servant, and now also because of their animals. This is like really my favorite part about this book, the friendship, and the relationship. Something that makes me really like love this book, even though maybe I don't always enjoy the plot, but I always enjoy the characters. And it's just so precious. Like, such remarks are just so precious. Hi. So, I am almost at the end. Like, I have almost a little bit more than 100 pages left. And I just wanted to say that sometimes Don Quixote says such just true and wonderful words, and I just like, I love reading them. And I don't know, I really like what he's saying. It's very I don't know, it's very Christian, I think. So, for example, they are walking and talking with Sanchoponzo as they usually do, and so they're talking about different kinds of beauty, and that's what Don Quixote says. "You should know, Sancho," responded Don Quixote, "that there are two kinds of beauty, one of the soul and the other of the body. That of the soul is found and seen in one's understanding, chastity, virtuous behavior, liberality, and good breeding, and all of these qualities can exist and reside in an ugly man. And when a person looks at this beauty and not at that of the body, an intense and advantageous love is engendered. I see very clearly, Sancho, that I am not handsome, but I also know that I am not deformed. It is enough for a virtuous man not to be a monster to be well loved, if he has the endowment of the soul which I have mentioned to you." I like what he is saying about these two types of beauty. Also, like before, I think it was like it's 700 something pages. Okay, yeah, 730. So like 100 pages before, he was also like giving lessons to Sanchoponzo and like teaching him something, which I will not spoil you why, but yeah, basically he was just saying really good words, which I will read to you because they don't really spoil anything. It's just like Don Quixote teaching Sanchoponzo. So what he was saying. "First, my son, you must fear God, because in fearing him lies wisdom, and if you are wise, you cannot err in anything. Second, you must look at who you are and make an effort to know yourself, which is the most difficult knowledge one can imagine. When you know yourself, you will not puff yourself up like the frog who wanted to be the equal of the ox." Yeah, I really like all these like observations of Don Quixote and his philosophy of people and life and how people should behave, how knight errants should behave, what they should do. I feel like it's a very good just lesson, to the reader, to people, and it's such a pleasure also to read. I don't know, I really like it. Basically, yes, what I was saying, I'm really liking it, and I think that this book, I know like it is mostly viewed as parody to the books of chivalry, but I feel like it's more than that. I don't think that it was meant to be only a parody on books of chivalry. I mentioned it before on Discord, and like, if it was just a book to make fun of these novels of chivalry, then Cervantes would be just a bully. No, don't you think so? I think this book is meant to be more than that, and Don Quixote as a character and Sanchoponzo as a character, they deserve more than just being these bullies, Yes, so basically, yeah, what I think is that this book teaches you a lot of good moral lessons. Yes, that's what I'm trying to say, I guess. That it's not just a parody of of the chivalry novels. So yeah, that's what I'm liking, even though it is sometimes tiresome to read and tiresome to get through. But when I come to passages like these that sound so true and they just speak to me, I like them and I love them, and I love the book for that and for these paragraphs. So yeah. Hi everybody. So this is going to be the last update for this reading vlog, because finally finally I have finished Don Quixote. I have finished this brick of a book. I have been through so much. Okay, yes, I am dramatizing. Okay, my final thoughts on this book. It's too long. I watched a video by Bemused Bookworm, because she also read the book with us and she made a video, like a review of the book. I will link this review down below in the description box. She said that probably this book is not meant to be read as a 900-page book. It's probably because initially, obviously, it was written, the two parts of this book were written in separate times. Like the second part came out after 15 years after the first novel. So the initial readers were not reading it as a 900-page novel. So maybe it's meant to be read differently. Maybe it's meant to be read separately, these two parts. And I think I agree with her. But even with that, I still think this novel could use some editing. Because even in the first part, just like to be honest, majority of people for some reason say that they enjoy second part better. I enjoyed the first part better, because I think because the first part was still new for me. Like the characters were new, and their adventures in the beginning were really funny, but then they got repetitive. I got used to them and they stopped being that funny. But then he starts introducing new characters and he starts introducing their stories, which again some people didn't enjoy because they had nothing to do with Don Quixote and Sancho Panza, but I personally enjoyed, because they were this break from those like endless repetitive adventures. So I personally enjoyed this first part better. But the second part is, I guess, better thought through, slightly better thought through, because we have like an end goal. The first part is just like aimless wandering in the surroundings of his village, with no goal really. Like we are not trying to achieve anything. They're just walking around looking for adventures. That's like the goal, to look for adventures. And so they find some misadventures. In the second part he corrects that and he gives Don Quixote a goal, which is to disenchant his Dulcinea. But again, it's just like the goal, but the structure of the second part is pretty much the same as the first. It's just wandering from one place to another, one adventure after another, not really connected to each other. So that's like my experience with the book. For me it was way too long, but again, like maybe if I read it like two parts separately, maybe it would be a different experience. The best part of this book for me were the characters. Don Quixote and Sanchoponzo are just two wonderful characters. If the plot of the book, in my opinion, is like lacking, these characters is what is the most important part of the book, and their friendship and their loyalty to each other. I think this is what all people love about this book. I think the people love the characters here and their relationship, because Don Quixote really is this knight of sorrowful face and he teaches you a lot. Being a madman, he actually teaches you so much about how to be
loyal, how to be kind, how to be noble. He teaches you so many wonderful and important things, and I love him for that. Sancho Panza is kinda, in a way, he's opposite, like the opposite of Don Quixote. When Don Quixote is so selfless, when Don Quixote is so noble, and he just wants to make the world a better place, and he doesn't mind suffering. Sancho Panza is on the contrary. He wants to be a governor of an insula. He wants to get a lot of money. He doesn't want to suffer for that. Sancho Panza is the complete opposite of Don Quixote, but he is not a bad man. He's just a very simple man. He does receive a good share of character development in the very end, which I also loved. The character development of Sancho Panza in the end, like, was really well done. Like, I really enjoyed that. So yeah, characters in this book is the best thing about it, and I think that's what everybody likes about this book, the characters and their relationship, and that's why everybody praises the book, and that's why people are saying that it's the best book of all time, because it's probably are the best characters of all time. Characters are the best, but even with them, still, like, the second part, I just didn't care, to be honest, anymore. With the second part, I couldn't wait for this to be over, to be honest. So that's my experience. I love the characters dearly, but yeah, the repetitiveness of the plot and kind of the aimlessness of it. Yeah, but at the same time, you know, this book was written in the 17th century, beginning of the 17th century. And again, one person mentioned it on Discord, that do not expect it to be like something that we are used to, because it's not. It's just not. It was an interesting experience, and I'm really glad that I read this book, and I'm glad that I have it under my belt and I have the experience. I will come back to it. I have decided for myself that I will read it in Russian. I want to reread it somewhere in the future, not this year, but maybe next year, in Russian. I want to read it in my mother tongue, so maybe it would be like an easier experience for me. So yeah, I want to come back to it, but read it super slowly, like take it a chapter a day. And yeah, just read it as kind of collection of short stories rather than a novel, like expecting it to be a novel. That's kind of what I thought. Maybe I will reread it in Russian, treating it as a collection of short stories. We will see. But yeah, the first part was the most enjoyable part for me because it was still new. And if the book would finish on the first part, I think I would like it more, because the second part I just couldn't care anymore, unfortunately. I really wanted to love this book. I really loved it in the beginning until it became super repetitive. That's my experience with this book. I will end this vlog here. Yeah, if you decide to give Don Quixote a try, definitely do so, but read it slowly. Prepare to it being quite repetitive, and don't expect it to be like anything that you are used to. But it's definitely a worth book to read, because Don Quixote and Sancho Panza are just two brilliant characters, and I love them. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this reading vlog. And I hope you will give Don Quixote a read. I really hope you will. Just prepare yourself that it's going to be a little bit different from what you're used to. So yeah, thank you so much for watching. I hope you're having a very good day. Hope you're staying safe. And yeah, I hope you're reading good books and enjoying them. And yeah, thank you so much for watching. Have a very good day, and I will see you soon in my next videos. Thank you so much. Bye.
Most of the people in the world are of the opinion that there never have been knights errant, and it seems to me that if heaven doesn't miraculously reveal to them the truth that they did exist and do exist now, any effort I make must be in vain, as experience has so often shown me. And so I do not wish to take the time now to free your grace from the error you share with so many others. What I intend to do is pray that heaven frees you from it and allows you to understand how beneficial and necessary knights errant were to the world in the past, and how advantageous they could be in the present if they were still in use. But what triumphs now, because of people's sins, are sloth, idleness, gluttony, and self-indulgence.